John's next big metaphor in the book is love. And what is it when John talks about love? He's not being a hippie here. He's not talking about maybe feelings, positive vibes, good vibes. To John, what is love?
So in the case of John here, it's not this free to do as you please, and just try not to hurt anybody in the process too badly, or but it's it's a love that is binding. There's a covenant involved. God has bound Himself to you, and He's expecting us to bind ourselves to Him as well. And so it's not the free love of the hippie, if you will, in that sense, but it's a love that has a sincere desire to bless the other as well, and we'll go to great lengths to accomplish that. We're talking about that such a great love that we're called children of God, and that's kind of the evidence of that covenant again. That we're family now.
And so John here is gone kind of almost the anti-hippie, if you will. He's really defining love in a way that is not just the complete freedom of the hippie, and it's not the complete chasing of your emotions. But in talking about love as kind of a binding, it's almost the antithesis of what the world would see as love and pursue as love. Why would anybody want the love if that's what it is?
Initially, there's a cost, and the question is the cost worth it? And at the end of the day, unfortunately, many of us learn too late that the cost, this binding, if you will, or a covenant, if you want to use a different term, is the only ground for having meaning and purpose. And so if you want the free sort of love of the hippie, you'll find out that meaning and purpose will be very elusive.
It seems to me like, when it comes to me, I'm totally good with having, not being bound to anything, but I would much rather other people be bound to things when it comes to me. Is there kind of a problem with our view of love and our expectations of love, do you think?
Under that definition, absolutely. It's one of those things. I think you even go to the classic 80s rock songs and there's an expression of love that can be somewhat selfish, but there's also, I think in a lot of those 80s rock songs, this sincere desire to bless that other person, to do whatever for that other person, and things of the sort. And but the sort of love you just described, it's very selfish and is turned completely inward, and is really hard to define as love.
Right. And I think a lot of the proponents of that kind of love would say, no, you got it all wrong. It's a very mature. It's gone beyond the desire to imprison somebody. I'll hold on to these things loosely. You hold on to them loosely. We'll be mature about this. What's the problem with that?
There's no substance to it at that point. It's not really love at that point. And as humans, we're really good at trying to redefine satisfying my desires in a good moral tone. But at the end of the day, it really is just selfishness. And in light of John's discussion, it's a fading away into non-existence.
It seems to me that John here is defining love in such a way that it's really a willingness to sacrifice oneself in the process or towards the end of being bound to something else. And so it's kind of a reversal of the world's view. The world says, I'm going to sacrifice everything else to be bound to myself. And John here is saying that's really the antithesis of love. Love is being sacrificial towards the self, but being bound to everything else. How does that follow out of John's view of light? Is there a connection between John's conception here of light and love?
We were created to be in relationship with God. And the foundation of that relationship is love, his love for us, and then us reciprocating that love back. And it is a love that binds one to the other. It is a love that sacrifices for the other in both directions. And so again, this connection of light and love, and if that relationship to God is absent, and that's kind of what you were created for, one of the primary things you were created for, then its absence is kind of a shrinking back from the light, if you will, and a fading into this lack of existence, this lack of substance in your life.
I find that John's conception, his argument here, and Lewis's view of kind of these people coming up from hell and not being able to bend a blade of grass, to be very much kind of the same argument, and it also seems to me that there's a definite correspondence to maybe our cultural moment. Do you see any connections there?
Well, we definitely don't want to be bound to anything, but we also definitely want to create an identity for ourselves. Like, we get to define what we are created for, and we don't want to be bound by anything. And so, I can change my mind tomorrow, and things of the sort. And unfortunately, there's a fading out of actual reality and existence in that.
Yeah, I was reading an article where somebody talked about that very phenomenon and said that it's kind of contained in the language of the present moment, where in the past people used to say I am, and now they say I identify as, and how there's a implicit lack of reality in that. Looking at John's argument there in light of the context and the kind of the fundamental conflict that's going on behind the scenes, really, what is his answer to the problem of these people who have left the church and are causing problems? Because he doesn't really seem to tackle it head on, but through these images of light and love, what is he really calling the believers to here?
Well, it's interesting, his answer, he talks about how they were never really a part of us, these ones who have left and stuff like this. And I think maybe he's kind of going down the road of saying, in this light versus darkness, and this kind of existence versus non-existence, that maybe they gave an appearance for a season, but they never really had that existence. They never really had that substance. They were never really in the light. And I think he's just doubling down and recalling, so then make sure that you really are in the light and that you have substance and existence.